and the second temple was, where the Dome of the Rock is now on. That's called Dome of the Rock because the rock is the foundation stone of the world, where the world was created from. So at the top of his head is Mount Moriah. Right over here by his neck is exactly where we are. This is the top of the city of David. Now, that's the northern boundary, because this way is north, south, okay? Boundary. It's called the Kidron Valley. Can anyone point to the Kidron Valley? This valley we can see. Do you guys see down there? That's a valley. Guess what? Back 3,000 years ago, it was even deeper. Again, things get filled. This is the city of David, the Tyropean, or the valley, the Kidron Valley. Down there, which I'm going to show you in a moment, is where the source, the 1D. What is the 1D that we have in Jerusalem? Drink, water. The Gihon spring is going to be over here. We're going to head from here all the way down to his fingertip. And then a couple hundred years later, the city is expanded. Why do you expand the city? Because more people come, right? So it becomes bigger. It was expanded during the time of Hezekiah, which we'll talk about afterwards, to Mount Zion. Okay? This is Mount Zion. I'm going to take the book of books. I'm going to open up to the book of books in the book of books, the book of Psalms, and we're going to read. Now we said, right, this is the top. So King David would be here. This is what he would see. And King David, we know about him. Yes, he was a warrior, right? He fought a lion and a bear. He fought Goliath. But he was also something else. He was a poet. He was a poet. And he fiercely loved God. That even when he went through the hardest trials and tribulations, he sang out to God. And imagine him standing here. And so he writes, Yerushalayim Harim Savivla. Yerushalayim, mountains surround her. V'Hashem Saviv La'amo. And God surrounds his people. This is what he looked at, guys, mountains. After some time, a new group comes in. So we have a layer of life, then a layer of destruction. A new group comes in. Now back then, they didn't have tractors. How are they gonna move all the stones? So what do? They just see the layer of destruction. They just pack dirt on it. They fill it up, and they build on top. So you have a layer of life, layer of destruction, layer of life, and then another war happens. We're so predictable. And so another war happens, another level of destruction. People come in, they're not gonna move them, so what do? Build on top, and boom, 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 you have a layered cake, which means the higher you are, the more modern it is. And if you cut all the way down, on the bottom is the most ancient. So when you go down in a tell, when archaeologists come and they cut that slice, at the bottom is the most ancient. And the Plishtim, and then when the Philistines heard that David had been anointed king over Israel, the Philistines marched up in search of David, but David heard of it and went down to the Misudah, which is the fortress. So how does that mean anything? Well, what we said is David conquers this area from the Jebusites 3,000 years ago. Right after he conquers it, he builds a palace. What did we say? If you're a king, where would you build your palace? At the top. So she reads over here, and it says that when David hears that the Philistines are coming, he went down towards the fortress. Now we already discovered, when Dr. Eilat Mazar mentions this, we already discovered where the fortress was. It's what was protecting the water, right? Because you want to protect your water, your main source. This is the external wall. That is the thickness. That's how the rooms back then. Crazy thick wall. It's got to be somebody that's pretty important. And then she does one other thing. She finds another thing. Take a look at what she finds. This corner right over here. That means there's 2 floors. Now, why again am I showing you this? There are different kinds of styles of capitals. There's the Doric, Ionic, and Corinthian, for those of you that took art history, right? Now, the Doric, the earliest, which was the Doric, dates 300 years after King David. This capital is known as what is called a Proto-Ionic capital. There's only one problem. This style capital doesn't come from here. It's not local to here. It comes from Tyre, from Lebanon up north. What? So what is it doing here? And how do we see David in it? Well, guess what? See, King David was not only a poet, he was also a politician. He made great ties with people. And once he conquered Jerusalem, he did something. He built his palace. And it says in Samuel 2, it says, and Hiram, king of Tyre, that's Lebanon, sent messengers to David in cedar trees and carpenters and masons. And they built David a house. He sent them masons that would create this stoneworking. So why is the design from Tyre? because it was Hiram's people that came to build David a palace. Now these kinds of capitals are only found, 12 of them throughout the country, found where? In palaces, monumental buildings built for kings or governors. And so finally, Dr. Eilat Mazar is now able to stand up, dust herself off and say, you are now standing in the palace of King David. And then people say, hey, I want to live next to the king. It sounds like a good place to live. Who would generally live next to a king? People of importance. So somebody said, hey, I want to come live next to the king. So what do? They come and they build their house on the retaining wall, on the wall that's holding up the structure. And what you see behind me, I'm going to show you now, over here. Can you guys see? This area is actually a first temple period house called the Israelites. So the people started really doing wrong in the eyes of God. And just partying all day long, not really thinking about values and morals in any which way. But I want you to imagine there was life here. There were people, father giving advice to his son, people, kids playing. A lot of partying, a lot of things that were not exactly right. And comes a man and he knocks on the door at the height of the party. This man comes in. His name was Jeremiah. And Jeremiah comes in and he says to the people, he holds up a mirror to them to show them just how ugly they've become, how far they've gone from God's ways. And he says to them, you're cheating, you're stealing, you're taking advantage of orphans and of widows. Repent! Repent! They say, what? I want you to go and I want you to write down. He says, I want you to go, call the guy, a person by the name of Baruch ben Neriah, and Baruch wrote down in the scroll at Jeremiah's dictation all the words which the Lord had spoken to him to tell the people that they need to repent of what was going to happen to them. And it was then that Baruch, in the chamber of Gemariyahu, the son of Shaphan, so Baruch ben Neriah takes a scroll that Jeremiah dictated to him of the words of God, because Jeremiah couldn't face the people. Why? What would they do to him? Kill him. And he comes to the chamber of Gemariyahu, the son of Shaphan, the scribe, in the upper court, near the new gateway of the house of the Lord, and he reads the words of Jeremiah from the scroll to the people in the house of the Lord. And what does the king do? And what do the people do? They take the scroll, they rip it, they throw it in the fire. Now, why am I reading this to you? Why is it relevant? Well, guess what? And actually put it on pause. I want you to remember. He would give the scroll to Kate and say, Kate, I want you to take the scroll and you need to bring this to Reese. So as Kate is walking along, she's really curious. What did he write? Did he write about me? Did he say something about me? So she goes ahead and she opens this clay seal. What happens to a clay seal if you try to open it? It cracks, it breaks, and she reads all the juicy gossip. And when it comes to Reese, and Reese sees it, what does he know? Someone opened my letter, because it's broken. So the seal and the fact that it was marked told you who sent it, and the fact that nobody read it. It was sort of like the cybersecurity of a past time, okay? Now, what happened over here? Why am I sharing all this with you? Well, in this area were found loads of what are called bula. What is a bula? This is a bula. This is a bula. With ancient Hebrew writing on it. Okay? A lot of them were intact, meaning they weren't opened, because we said, who lives next to the king? The royal advisors, right? There was an archive. What do you have? You have an archive. They found loads of these. Now, why am I telling you this? Because on one of the bula, on many of the bula that were found, what name was found? Gemariyahu, the son of Shaphan, that we literally just read from the Bible. That Jeremiah told Baruch ben Neriah, and Baruch came to the house of Jeremiah, of Gemariyahu, the son of Shaphan, and read out loud. Here is the Kidron, right down below. And imagine, the Jebusites are up here. And King David comes from Hebron, which is south. He's coming from that direction. And he comes to the very bottom. Remember, it's even deeper. And he's looking up. And there's all fortifications. And they are protected, their water source, which we'll discuss at the next stop. Okay? And David says, we must get the city. Why must we get the city? Because we need it to unify a nation. It is important for us to unify a nation. And when he comes here, and they say to him, they say to David, he sees that the Jebusites are living here, the Jebusites are in the land. How is he going to conquer? They look down at him and they scream, Lo tavo hena. You hear the echo?
Wow.
Lo tavo hena means you will not come here. Even our lame and our blind are watching the fortress gates. We are not even worried that you might be able to come. We are placed our lame and blind. And the entire water source was fortified. What was David going to do? How was he going to conquer Jerusalem that was so important to unify a nation? What would you do? Cut off his water source. His water is down there. You don't need to pick up a sword. You just block that water. What's going to happen to Owen after a few days? The people are not going to have water. They're going to die on their own. They're going to get dehydrated. It's a problem. It's a problem. So now Owen knows this, and he knows how clever Enya is. Oh, she knows what to do. So what is Owen? Owen, what are you going to do to make sure that she can't cut off from your water source? What would you do?
I'd probably put like security soldiers or a big wall around the water.
Okay. You said wall. A wall. You're going to put a wall around it. Okay, what if the people jump over the wall? What else would you do? Okay, that's a great idea. You can build a tunnel, and that's exactly what takes. This picture, what time period is this from? Can somebody tell me? Is this from David?
No.
No, why?
The temple.
Because the temple is built. That means it has to be from the time of Solomon. All of this was from David, okay? This was also from the Jebusite period as well, but then it was obviously added to and fixed, you got to maintain. And then this was added during Solomon.
Wait for me then. Wait for me. Okay. Let me get those water bottles at the bottom.
That prior to 150 years ago, did people know that this was the ancient city of David? They thought the ancient city of David was where? In the old city. Have you guys been at Jaffa Gate, any of you? Do you know that there's a tower there called the Tower of David? Do you know who never visited there?
David.
Exactly. It's called the Tower of David erroneously. Why? Well, because that palace that you see there, the Tower of David, was built originally by the Hasmoneans, then built by Herod, okay? And then after Herod, 1,000 years after Herod, came people called the Crusaders. The Crusaders had a Bible in their right hand, okay? And they had a gun in their left hand, and they come into the city and they read, and it says that when David conquered the city of Jerusalem, he built himself a palace. And what did they see? They saw this palace, this fortress, and they attached David's name to it. From 1099, when the Crusaders came, they attached David's name to it, and from that point on, it was known as the Tower of David. But David was never there. That was fake news, okay? He was never there. And if you go from the Tower of David through the Shuk, okay, to get to the Western Wall, that street is called David Street because they figured David went from his palace to go to the Temple Mount through that street. Again, fake news. Who's the one that helped us understand this? This man right over here, Mr. Charles Warren, who came here in 1867. We're going to understand a little bit more about him when we go further down. But it was because of this man and his curiosity that the ancient city of David was, in fact. The last section is even steeper, okay? And just watch out for your head. You come here, there's a head, but just watch out. Feel the sides, you can feel the sides of the wall. This was done with picks and axe in order to cut through and make an underground tunnel to protect the water in times of siege. Because in times of peace, all is good. But in times of war, you have a problem. So everything we're seeing right now, Warren didn't come through here. He came from the bottom. We'll explain. All of this is from the Canaanite period. Thank you.
This is the fourth Canaanite
Take your time, man. You hold that rail.
Yes, not specifically these, but yes, they found loads of jars and pottery. West, south, north, clear. Okay, so where are we, guys? Where are we? Do you guys see the wall here to my right and the wall here to my left? And you see this corridor here? Remember we discussed that there were two systems, the underground and the above ground system. We just came through the underground, but we are now meeting the above ground system. Take a look. I'm hoping that you guys can see it. Oh, great, excellent. That's fantastic. Thank you, my helpers. So, and again, it's as though we're going to hold it like this way, if that is not going to confuse you too much, okay? Hopefully that's not going to confuse you. We came here. We're standing right here. What's on my right and my left? The walls of the protected Ottoman Turks. The Turks were in charge of this region, and Charles Warren is an archaeologist, and he was sent here by Her Majesty Queen Victoria, and she comes here and he wants to find some really exciting things. So where does he want to dig? He wants to dig on the Temple Mount, right? Just like everywhere, Temple Mount. So he gets to the Temple Mount, he knocks on the door, and he says, could you guys allow me to dig here? What do you think the Ottomans did? No. They laughed in his face. Are you kidding? Get out of here. You want to come and dig over here on one of our holy sites underneath it? No way. See you later, Charles. So he leaves. He's very disappointed, very upset. He's walking around the area, and he ends up bumping into somebody that tells him, hey, there is a spring down below by the Kidron. Now he, again, has the Bible in his right hand, the shovel in his left hand. And what does he notice? He says, wait a second, we know that the city was built by a water source, by the Gihon spring. So people didn't have to schlep all the way down. People were still lazy back then, don't worry, they were always lazy. So now, let's take a look. So we saw the corridor, okay? This wall here, you see this wall? This is the outer wall of the corridor, okay? So the area that we're at north is that we're standing in front of now. What is behind me? What does this look like here?
Pool.
This is the pool. This is the Canaanite pool. Now, if you have a pool, where's the water coming from? Now, if you look at this picture and you looked up and you were living here 3,000 years ago, what would you see? The sky. Excellent. How did this pool get filled? That's a very good idea. But again, there's not too much rain. Would that be the main way? Some people say exactly as you did, maybe by rain. But we found something. Do you remember that tunnel I showed you over there? Now, here is the spring tower. The spring tower is built over the spring. What did they do to get water from the spring to the pool? They built a channel from underground that connected the spring to the pool, and then they would close it once it was full, that it would fill this with water so that they can stand there, put their bucket down, be able to take water. There's also steps, which we'll see on that side over there. This was here all the way until about midway through the First Temple period. Midway through the First Temple period, and we'll discuss why that was, this got filled in. It got filled in, and people built houses here. You could see remnants of such right over there. You see in the corner? This is about midway through the First Temple period. This no longer became the place where people were coming to get water. Why? Because which water source was created? The Siloam pool. In the time of Hezekiah, they basically carved from here to here, and so the waters moved. So they no longer needed this as the pool. The city expanded. Remember we said, and again, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but that's okay. Remember we said that the city expanded after a few hundred years? So if the city expanded this way and the water is here, is it convenient anymore for the water to be there? You need to move it closer to the people. So they end up building the tunnel to move the water here. And that's why this pool ended up going out of use. And there were houses that were built upon it, okay? But that's how the water comes to Jerusalem to unify a nation. After 70 years, he's on his deathbed. Now imagine, he has 21 children. He's on his deathbed. What does a child want to do? Their father is, God forbid, about to expire. They want to be next to their father. They want to get a blessing from him. They want to spend time with him. David had a very hard life. One of his sons, by the name of Adoniyahu, he decided he's going to preempt his father's death, and he's going to anoint himself as king himself. So as his father is on his deathbed, Adoniyahu goes, he calls, he creates a party, he brings the DJ, they bring the food to a place just south of here called Ein Rogel, also by a place of water. Why? Because water represents continuity. And he anoints himself as king, and they all saying, long live King Adoniyahu. But who doesn't he invite? Not David, not Solomon, and not any of David's really high trusted people. Who hears about this? A prophet that was working with David. His name was Natan. He hears about what happens. He knows that who is supposed to be king after David? Solomon. David promised Bathsheba that her son Solomon would be king. So Nathan goes to Bathsheba and says, did you hear what happened? Now, he didn't do this to give her juicy gossip. He was trying to give her tools to be able to go and tell David, because you don't want to come to a king and say, you don't even know what's going on in your own kingdom. It's not appropriate. It's not respectful. So Bathsheba, even though she could bust in and say, hey, David, what are you doing? Where's my son's not king? What's going on? She doesn't. She comes in humbly. She says, I'm not sure if you heard. She's respecting him, saying, telling him what exactly took place. The northern kingdoms are basically exiled. Okay? What happens? I'm going to show you here. Just a moment. Okay. So in the year 722, the northern kingdoms of Israel are all exiled. They're the 10 lost tribes. Which tribes remained? Yehudah. That's why Jews are called Yehudim, because we're from the tribe of Judah. The others are the 10 lost tribes, which people discuss today who are part of the 10 lost tribes. So that's in the year 722. Now, what happens 20 years later? Well, 20 years later, there was a king by the name of Hezekiah. Okay? And the kingdom of Judah was a vassal underneath the Assyrians. What does it mean? They have to pay taxes. Do people like paying taxes? Of course they don't. So what happened is that when the kingship switched in the Assyrian campaign, in the Syrian kings, it became King Sanherib, Hezekiah decided no more paying taxes to the Assyrians. We're not doing it. So Hezekiah decides we're not paying taxes. Well, in the year 701, was Sanherib, the king of Assyria, happy? Nope. So the king of Assyria comes, and I'll show you again. I'll press this one more time so you can see. The king of Assyria, let's do this and then this. The king of Assyria comes from the modern day Iraq. He comes down through from the north to the south by Lebanon, going in, and he starts destroying 46 fortified cities of Judah. Now, people are being exiled. People in Jaffa are running away. Everybody's running where to? Jerusalem. Now, if everybody's running to Jerusalem, what happens to Jerusalem? It has to expand to hold all the people. And the Assyrian, Sanherib, comes riding with 185,000 soldiers towards Jerusalem. What is their main goal? Destroy all of Judah. Destroy Jerusalem. Now, how do they know what is the best way to destroy the city? Do you need to really pick up a weapon? You could just put a siege around the city. Block their water source. Try to attack their water. So now Hezekiah is worried. What are they going to do? The Assyrians are coming, 185,000 strong. And the water source, I'll show you over here, just a moment. Okay, so this is Hezekiah's Jerusalem. The water source is over here, but the city expanded over there. You understand? So is the water source really, is it in the best place right now? No. Plus, with this water source, some waters would go out into the Kidron, to the Kidron Valley in order to bring vegetation. Well, if some waters would come out, who would be able to benefit from it? The Assyrian army. So he needs to think fast. What are we going to do? First of all, the city expanded to the west. So if the city expanded to the west, he needs to build a wall around the western part of the city, which he does. It's called the Broad Wall. You can see it in the Jewish Quarter. There is a segment of the wall that they date to the time of Hezekiah, the wall that he builds as the Syrians were on their way to destroy Jerusalem and place a siege. So he builds a wall, and he has to do something about the water. What does he decide to do? Well, let's take a look. He decides that since the city is more in that direction, he needs to divert the waters. He needs to divert the waters inside the actual wall of the city, called the Shiloach pool, because Shiloach, Shalach, means to send, the Siloam pool. How are they going to do this? There's no time, the Assyrians are coming. He breaks up the group, he says, you are going to go over here. The other half, you're going to go over here. He gives them pixes, he gives them axe. He says, dig and come to meet each other in the middle. No GPS, guys. No GPS. How are they going to do this? It's dark. They're underground. They're digging. The Assyrians are coming. Finally, the moment of joy when they meet each other and the waters start to flow all the way to the Shiloam pool. The Assyrians come and they place a siege. But what happens that night? It says that an angel of God, and it says it right here in the Bible, an angel of God came out and struck down 185,000 Assyrians.
Orly, KK. Who else are we waiting for? Yay, Eden. Enya. Good job, Enya. Good job, sweetie.
That was amazing. Temple period. It was also used in the first temple period. The waters came here, but it was refurbished. And this area, which was like a tent, is where people would go in to perform the mitzvah of mikveh before ascending to the temple. It's called to ascend, right? Orly la regel, to go up by the foot. Why is it called to go up by the foot? Well, I'm going to show you something. And if you guys have an extra 5 minutes, you want to see the mount where it stood here, the first and the second. And the road that you're standing on, this is original road from the second temple. From the second temple, this is the original road. The second temple was destroyed in 70 CE.